There's one coming in close at your 4 o'clock.
Okay, I see him.
Don't move. Yeah, you got it. You got it. You got it. You're on him. You slip. There you go.
Okay, put your net now.
Net.
My name is Zachary McNaughton, and I am not a professional angler. I've been fishing for over 20 years, and the one thing that these years have taught me most is that I have a lot to learn. So let's meet some of Vermont's true master anglers, and together we'll discover some fishing techniques and explore the many species that this great state has to offer.
He's coming to this side. Ready? Ready? Ready?
All right. Great job, both of you. Now, is that cool?
That is pretty cool.
That's a good one.
Just wait.
That's a female. One thing that you got to be really aware of with bowfin is those teeth right there. Look at those teeth. That's why you don't put your fingers in that mouth. And those teeth actually go along the mandible here. These tubercles are pretty cool. I think they're pretty neat. And that's one thing that bowfin have that snakeheads don't have. This is called the golden plate. It's the only fish that has them. Cool fish. And you see how their tail is not rounded like a normal fish? It's actually, it's kind of like a shark's. You know how a shark has a really long lobe on one side? That's called a strongly heterocercal tail. These are weakly heterocercal tails. I get to geek out with fishing a little bit here.
Just getting back in. Oh, how about a gentle slide off the hands, okay? Okay, now wash your hands.
Now it's my turn.
Yep, it's your turn.
So we're going fly fishing for bowfin using my dapping technique, which is kind of a unique way of fly fishing that doesn't require as much skill as typical fly fishing does.
Down, all the way down.
Okay, back up. Set it hard! I have some specialized flies that I've come up with myself. I've got one that I call the Mr. Beauregard, and I've got another one I call the Mr. Bojiggles. I've got a few others, like I use changer craws, game changer craws. They're very effective. All of them basically look like a small organism that a bowfin would feed on. They either look like a crayfish or a dragonfly nymph or a damselfly nymph, or just basically something alive in their face that a bowfin will grab and do a smash and grab with, because that's the style of predation that they do. They just grab something and then take off. What I usually use is a faster action 7 or 8 weight fly rod. I find these new Orvis Helios 8-foot 5-inch rods are fantastic. The 7-weight, it might be in my opinion, it's probably the perfect bowfin rod for what I do. Having a nice stiff rod it really makes a difference when setting a hook on these things. They have a really seriously hard mouth filled with teeth, so you got to get a good hook set in it, and having a faster action rod makes a big difference with that. Line isn't really that important. You're not actually casting these lures, so really what you have for a fly line isn't that important, as long as it's a floating fly line, and because the leaders are really short. And at the end of the fly line, I've been using the Scientific Anglers loops, because that allows me to go directly to the tippet without cutting into the end of my fly line. And then I'm going to use, I need to get some different stuff. Yeah, the 16 will be fine. I'm going to use about a 4-foot piece of 16-pound fluorocarbon. Doesn't need to be very long. You don't want a super long leader if you're fly fishing for bowfin in this style, because you can't get a good hook set. If you have a really long leader, you won't have the right angle to set the hook properly in a really bony mouth. And this is their mouth. So it's a really, really bony, toothy mouth. So you got to be really careful. Or you can see it on my hat. And I'm going to do a perfection loop at the end of the piece of tippet. So I'm just using a straight piece of tippet. There's my perfection loop. Doing a loop to loop. That was a bowfin that was right behind the boat right there. We're timing this perfectly. And I'm just doing a loop to loop, a handshake knot, or handshake loop to that, testing it out. And I am going to use one of my personal flies. So Mr. Bojiggles right here, kind of looks like a crayfish. real simple fly. I like doing really simple flies because you lose a lot of them when you're doing this. And I use a non-slip loop knot to the fly. I like the loop knot because it gives you more wiggle to the fly. And I do a 4 turn when I'm using this 16-pound test. And wet down your knot. Test it. There we go. And there it is. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And that will do it. That's how you rig my style of bowfin fishing. Key piece of equipment when you're sight fishing for bowfin or any other fish is a good pair of polarized sunglasses. I'm wearing Costa Reefing Pros here, and one of the key elements that you gotta have is a good copper or brown colored lens or yellow colored lens, amber, to give you a higher contrast. Gray lenses are not going to do you any good in these situations, but you gotta have, it's critical to have a good pair of polarized sunglasses, not only for seeing the fish, but eye protection. These flies will sometimes pop out of that fish's mouth and come flying back at you, and you only get one set of eyes, so having a pair of sunglasses on gives you a level of eye protection that you wouldn't have otherwise. Bowfin are found in Lake Champlain. They're found along the edges. They're swamps and marshes, weedy backwaters. If it gets warm, that's where you're going to find bowfin. Hot and weeds is a good way of thinking about it. Mostly in water under 4 feet deep. A lot of the water that we'll fish today is going to be even less than that, 2 to 3 feet at most. And looking for the fish cruising around, looking for something to eat. Bowfin are pretty easy fish in a lot of ways. They're pretty forgiving.
Video.
All right.
29.
29-inch Master Angler bowfin on the fly for Zach. Oh. They will, they'll come up and look you in the face. They'll look at the boat. They're not terribly afraid of the boat. They don't like fast movement.
I was not expecting that.
So if you see one, you don't want to move quick. They don't like banging in the bottom of the boat. And they don't like when things splash in front of them. So you got to be kind of conscious of that. Otherwise, they're pretty game fish. they are curious. They will come up and they will check things out. It makes them a great sight fishing target. Bowfin are tough customers. Bowfin breathe air. They can be out of the water for a while, which makes it nice, especially on these hot summer days.
You're doing great.
Yeah! We're doubles! I got a micro!
Can you hold them any higher? Hold them high. Get Drew landing his.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Doubles! I got the micro! You want to try to be conscientious of how long you have them out of the water, but generally they're pretty tough. There's reports of bowfin being out of the water for 24 hours without any issues with them. So that makes it a little bit easier to handle them. You want to be aware they've got a mouthful of teeth. This is not something, this is not a fish you want to try to do a bass lip with, because you will be going to the hospital. They've got a mouthful of teeth that will mess you up pretty bad. I stopped using a boga grip or any kind of lip grip tools years ago. A lot of people think that you really need one because of all the teeth. And I will tell you that I have seen more bowfin messed up by those tools than anything else. Look at that. That is why those lip grippers are terrible for fish. I would highly recommend that you avoid them, because bowfin, as soon as they get in the net, or if you clamp something onto their jaw, they try to do a death roll, right? They start spinning, and if you are holding on to one of those things, you snap their jaw in half. So don't use the lip grips. They're totally unnecessary. If you are conscious of their teeth and you are being careful, you are not going to have any problems. I have not had any major problems myself, and I have handled thousands and thousands of bowfins over the year. So don't use the lip grips, don't use the boga grips. They're dangerous to fish. Bowfin are a fish I have described many times as the most American game fish. These are a fish that is unchanged for essentially 300 million years. If you look in the fossil record and you see a fossil of a bowfin, it is the same fish. It looks exactly like the same fish that is swimming here in Vermont. They are a native fish. They have been here since Lake Champlain was Lake Champlain. They have a lot of value. They truly are a game fish. They are not a cull fish, which is a designation that was given to them in the 1940s, which is, you know, using archaic mentality. They are hard fighting. They are self-reproducing. They're all over Lake Champlain. They're a lot of fun, and people should respect them and take better care of them. They're not a good food fish either. They are really a fish that tastes like mud, got mushy flesh. They're not something you're going to want to eat. They're a great catch and release fish, and they're a lot of fun. They're great on these hot summer days where you really shouldn't be fishing for trout. You know, so this is a great opportunity for fly anglers to try something different.
Oh, jeez, wow!
I think you got a master angler.
Okay, let some line up.
I don't know how to.
Yep,
there you go.
You got it.
Put it in the boat.
Wow, that is a tank fisher.
Picture.
Yep.
You'll get pictures. So I'm gonna sit on a pulpit for a second. Bow fishing is a destructive, meaningless sport. Bowfin and gar and pike and carp and other fish species are shot with an arrow, killed, and dumped in the woods. Justifications are given that they're helping the bass population. Largemouth bass are not native to Lake Champlain. There's justification that they're used as fertilizer. Somebody tells you they're using a fish as fertilizer when it's July or August, are lying to you because you're done fertilizing your garden at that point. These fish have higher value than just simply being dumped in the woods. And I urge any angler, any responsible angler, to call people out who are using this destructive practice. This is no different than the kid who's got a BB gun and is shooting chickadees for fun. The difference is, kids don't know any better. You learn to not do that. Some people don't grow out of that. Killing for killing's sake is lame, and it defies all reason of being a sportsman.
Thanks for watching this episode of Vermont Master Anglers. For more content, visit our Facebook page at Vermont Master Anglers. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe.